It is 7 o'clock, and I'm calling to order the Ayer Town Finance Committee meeting for December 6th, 2018. Ms. Gabry has joined us. She's a guest. She's a town accountant. We have Mark Smith and Terry Harvell, who are members of the Finance Committee. So we're going to adjust the agenda if everyone is in agreement with that, and I need a motion to...
Make a motion to adjust the agenda. Second.
Okay, I can't do either one of those. So there's two things we want to adjust on the agenda. The first one is to add to it at the beginning a request from Ms. Gabry to approve $150,000 budget transfer, reserve fund transfer for fiscal year 2019. And the second is to nominate and elect a vice chair of the committee. So, Lisa, would you like to address this?
Yeah, that's actually a budget request for FY20.
Okay.
So,
it's 20. Okay, yeah, 20,
right.
not 19.
And
right.
in the last few years, you know, $150,000 has been recommended by you guys. And I think there was 1 year was less than that, but we ended up needing more. So we went back to we had as part of the special town meeting a supplemental appropriation to put it back up to 150. So I think we budget conservatively, and you know, sometimes stuff happens unexpectedly. So I think it's best to keep that at $150,000. That's my opinion. Even if you don't use it, it just closes out to free cash anyway. So it'll close out to fund balance.
Okay. Other than having a motion and voting to approve it, do you need me to sign this, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
just fill out under the last column the amount, 150,000.
Okay. So I'm going to ask the committee if you have questions about this. Lisa can explain how it's used, what it's for, so that you haven't been involved in this, Mark, and neither of you, Terry. So if you have questions for what the reserve transfer fund is for, please ask Lisa.
I'll give you a quick explanation.
Yeah, why don't you?
So we live and die by our budget appropriations at town meetings. So once they're voted, if something happens, something unexpected, like the fire truck needed $18,000 of repairs, and that was unexpected. So the fire chief feels like for this year, for fiscal 19. So he feels like he may be able to not ask for a reserve fund transfer, depending on how the rest of the year goes. You know, if he has fire or someone's out sick or something like that, and he has to replace those shifts, then if his budget gets too tight, he's going to have to come and ask. He will ask both you and the Board of Selectmen for a reserve fund transfer. And that's one of the critical things that the Finance Committee does, because without a Finance Committee, we're dead in the water with reserve fund transfers. You know, the Selectmen can approve them all day long, but there is no other option for a second signature on that. So it's critical. Hopefully you guys all stay in place.
How do they get the money from there? So if it's sitting there in the reserve budget.
Right, it's an appropriation at town meeting, just like anybody else's appropriation. And so I actually, once it's approved, I make the budget adjustment. So I take the money out of the reserve fund, say it's 50,000, and I move it to whatever account, the fire department, for instance, the fire department's account. And that's all. It's as simple as that. But we do need the proper authority to do that.
So
And it can apply to any department?
It can apply to any department.
Anything.
I've needed one last year, which was unusual.
Yeah, you
Because
did, didn't you?
we had turnover and some of the other departments, and I'm also the finance manager as well as the town accountant, and we had some issues around cash, and I had to have the auditors come in and help us get caught up with cash, because there was, you know, turnover issues with personnel. And so I've had to actually ask for one, but typically I don't. A lot of times, like town council will, although this year it looks fine.
Like when we had the issue with Barry, that was a $71,000 transfer that needed to be done to pay unexpected legal fees,
Right.
that kind of stuff. So it's a bucket that's got money in it, and as Lisa needs to have money that's not budgeted, this money is available to cover unanticipated cost. So that's what a reserve fund transfers for. That's why they call it a reserve fund. At the end of the year, if it's not used, it goes into free cash. It's
Just like anybody else who
Yeah.
has a balance in their budget, it will go into free cash. It will close out to what you, free cash is kind of like retained earnings in the
Like
private sector. Retained earnings in the private
Okay.
sector. It's kind of like retained earnings. It has some weird snafus to it, but I don't know, that's a state. Yeah, so, I mean,
Why is 150K?
it just seems to work well. I mean, there are times where we fall short if it's not 150. Like, if we have a tough year and there's a lot of departments going to the till for some reason. For instance, this year, we have a new treasurer collector, and she's finally, after 6 years, being aggressive about putting old accounts, real estate tax balances into tax title. And so that secures our lien on those monies. And then once they're in tax title, then she will proceed to hopefully make agreements and they can pay them off, or they'll come in and pay them off anyway. But because she's more aggressive about that, there's legal cost involved with her attorney she's using. There's also advertising costs involved, and when you advertise in the newspaper, it's not cheap these days. So it's likely she's already used a significant part of that $8,000. It's likely she's going to need a reserve fund transfer, but it's well worth it because the money we get back in return justifies the increase.
so it's an unbudgeted reserve for those budget line items that have a possibility of being exceeded for some extraordinary reason.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Essentially, it's just moving moving the dollar figures from one spot to another spot for
Right,
the holding
exactly.
pattern.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
money is there
Mhm.
for emergencies. And if we didn't have a reserve fund, then we'd really be in trouble.
We'd have to have special town meetings all the
Right.
time, and that's costly.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
For an administrative issue,
Makes
that's
good-
costly.
Makes good sense, okay.
And I guess my question is 150K has been good for X number of years, instead of it being 250K?
Well, when we had the school department too, when the school was a department, there were some years we needed it much more than that.
Okay, all right.
But since they're no longer a department, they're their own district, their own separate organization, 150 seems to work for us. And if the need came, if say we came to May town meeting and we saw that dwindling, we could always do a supplemental appropriation to increase it just to get through the rest of the year. Because typically, all of us, typically the reserve fund transfers come at the end of the year or close to the end of the year.
Yeah.
We're not apt to come and ask for one if we still have $100,000 in our line, so
Oh, this is
we're gonna wait.
You just said something. We're January to December, right?
No,
No.
we're July to June. The whole state is. The municipalities are all
July to
June
June.
30 year
It's
ends.
federal. calendar.
July to June?
I think federal, well, at least the grants is sometimes August.
That's right, the federal is
September.
October to September, right?
Right.
Yeah, 1st of October, yes, yeah.
To get the grants.
Right,
So
right.
they need time to close, I suppose, but yeah.
And the school district is, since it became regionalized, there's two towns, Shirley and Ayer, that participate in the school district. Part of their annual budget automatically up to whatever is approved in the school district requires is made available to them as a transfer, so that becomes their funds and they manage it themselves. So if they go into the kimchi, they may come back to us for something extraordinary, but that's really unusual.
Yeah, the last I knew, they had some excess and deficiency, excess. So I think, and then we've voted to let them establish a stabilization account.
Yes.
So that's a good thing, especially like SPED related costs, because that can come out of nowhere, and it's very expensive if you have to tuition children out.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
Yeah. So, do you have any other questions about the reserve transfer? Okay. Then I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the $150,000 reserve transfer fund. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
No, I can't do the motion. I
Okay.
can only request it.
I make a motion that we approve $150,000 in the reserve transfer fund.
Second.
Okay, so be it, I've already signed it, so,
Okay.
thanks, Lisa.
So Robert had asked me to come, you're probably gonna talk about capital a little
Yeah.
bit, but it's really,
Yeah.
we have a capital planning committee already, and we vet these things, but knowledge is power, so you wanna share that information, that's fine,
Yes, that's-
as long as you're clear that it's not, this is preliminary, this is just requests, and our job as capital planning committee is to vet them, because as you can imagine, the department heads are doing their job by requesting, like DPW or the police department, or whoever, by requesting what they feel is right, but we have to fit it into our budget as well. So we need to make sure it's financially gonna fit. Maybe some things get pushed off a little, or maybe the type of project gets changed a little.
Lisa, would you explain to Terry and Mark a little bit about how the funding for the capital appropriations can come to pass?
Well,
It's not just out of general,
No, there's general fund of capital requests, and if it's $300,000 or more, according to our capital planning policy, it has to go out for a debt exclusion or a capital exclusion. Capital exclusion is when you pay for it, and you don't borrow for it. A debt exclusion is when you borrow for it. So there's debt service incurred each year until the term of the debt is over.
now on the debt exclusion, the pay for it component becomes part of the general tax process, is that correct?
It does, it gets
Yeah.
added on. It's similar to a general override. You know, we operate under Prop 2.5 in this state. I don't know I don't even know how long either one of you lived in this state. But some years ago, Proposition 2.5 was passed by the voters, and that basically said that you can't raise our taxes anymore, our real estate taxes and personal property taxes, any more than 2.5% each year. However, if you vote a general override, which could be used for any municipal expense purpose, if the voters vote that at both town meeting as well as as a ballot, then, and it passes, then we can increase your taxes more than 2.5%. We can increase it by whatever the amount is for the general override. And the debt exclusion and capital exclusion are the same way. They act the same way, except there's a term. There's a definite term. They're not never ending like
No.
the general override. They are either they're basically for capital, fixed assets, and you either gonna purchase it, say it's just $300,000, but you feel like you can purchase it that year, or in the voters vote to do that, then we just purchase it, and it's a 1-year increase in your taxes. But if it's a big project like the school fields, which
The
is
December 11th.
millions
vote.
of dollars,
Yeah.
the school will go out for borrowing for it, and they will tell us what the debt service is gonna be each year, and that will increase your taxes by more than 2.5%. We have not, I believe there was 1 year that we had, I've been here for 25 years, I think there was 1 year we had a general override. Specifically, I mean, in the beginning it was for the schools, but then after the first year it can be used for anything. It can be. And I think there was 1 year that we thought we were gonna need one, but the assessors at that time found more growth or whatever, so we weren't in the financial position back then that we are now. We have a pretty solid financial position right now. But it's taken a while to build up to that.
General.
But one of the reasons is we put that capital policy in place. That's
Yeah.
one of the reasons that has,
One of the
Helped
things
us.
that, there's a cap to the amount of tax dollars a municipality can levy, and that's what's called the levy limit, and that is defined annually by the assessors and by the Department of Revenue.
Mhm.
Right now, I think we're, what, at 98.5% of our levy limit, or whatever it is. We're below the levy limit. Most towns are up against it.
and we have been,
We
when
have
I
in the
first
past.
started, so
Yeah.
many years ago, but this year for FY19, we're looking at a $2.5 million excess levy capacity, we call that. That
Yeah.
is, we could tax up more, $2.5 million more, but we're not. and that's not a bad thing.
That's a good thing.
That's like another reserve in our pocket, like, so when bonding agencies look at, you know, we have a substantial amount in stabilization fund, which is like a savings account for the town. We have a substantial amount in capital stabilization, which we've designated for capital purchases, or capital, well, even if it's debt at some point, we might, I'd like to build it up, so I know there's gonna be an elementary school at some point, or some renovations to elementary school, and they're usually significant in cost, so it'd be nice if we could build at least part of it up so that we could just pay for a portion of it and kind of, so it doesn't hurt the taxpayers as much.
Right.
So a general override can be any percentage increase.
It could be. It's typically a dollar. It's typically a dollar amount that people know about. You may not see it because the state has specific language on the ballot question, but it will be talked about and you'll be told how much it is, and that will be the amount. Once it's passed, it's that amount. You can't, and then it can grow by 2.5%, just like everything else. You know, the base taxes, but it can't be. It can't just grow. You know,
Infinitely. Yeah.
huge. Oh, we're out of balance, we need more money. No, it's not like that. So,
You know, one of the nice things about moving out this way is because the taxes were lower out here.
well, the advantage of the town of Ayer is you have a split tax rate.
Yes.
So you have, and it's a pretty big split. Like, for instance, FY 19, well, Tom and I have just been working on tax recapitulation sheet. It's not a sheet, it's more like a workbook that we have to submit to the DOR, and they approve the tax rate. The residential tax rate, I believe, was $13.63 per 1,000, whereas the commercial industrial tax rate is $28.80. Right, there's a big split. And that happened a long time ago, way before my time, when it first was split. I believe that they developed the industrial park after the tannery burned. There were some pretty wise people, men, whatever, and involved in the town, and people were out of work. So they aggressively went after the industrial park, and federal money, UDAG money, you hear that UDAG money, all in to specifically to encourage businesses here to build infrastructure that would sustain the businesses, so to make it more attractive. And those forefathers a long time ago decided the split, and it was a pretty huge split compared to some other communities. But on the other hand, I don't really see businesses still come to Ayer, because we're like a little city. We have all the services that a city can provide without all the nuisance, I think.
Because you have to be competitive even in that market.
Yeah,
Compared to other towns.
I'm pretty sure, you know, not other towns. Some towns want to be a bedroom community. They don't encourage business like Shirley. I mean, Pepperell has a little bit. That's where I live, but it's not really. There's no split rate because it's really not enough. There is a small industrial park. Harvard, yeah, right. Harvard.
I just don't see any businesses out there really.
No, it's just maybe a little bit of retail in
Yeah,
Harvard.
yeah.
No, there's nothing. Really.
Harvard's rates are pretty high for.
Yeah, they're pretty
Harvard
high.
and Harvard has no sewer. Like, you're not going to get big businesses to come to. They don't want to put in their own septic tanks.
No.
No.
You know, you talk about taxes. One of the reasons I moved to Ayer, they had a sewer.
Right.
It's a nice
Right.
thing.
I looked, when we looked at Groton, Groton still doesn't have sewer in a lot of places.
Yeah, that's
If
right.
at all, but the places I looked, they didn't have sewers.
Actually, we just allowed them
Just
to
did-
connect to us
Yeah.
up at the Four Corners.
Yep, on West.
I haven't
Road
seen
and
much in
Sandy
Flow
Pond
yet,
Road.
but-
Yep, that's what they did last year. That's where they had that road torn up in front of Shaw's.
Yep.
And why they built that facility off to the side of it is because they had to put in a sewer, and they used federal money for that.
Yeah.
It took them 10 years to get the federal money.
Okay. All right.
But it's not going to be cheap for them because, you know, they have to pay into us and we have all the infrastructure.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
you know, they're going to pay for that, just like.
And they should.
I
And
believe,
they should.
right, and they pay Pepperell for portions of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they pay dearly. But we're the ones who invested all the infrastructure, and we continue to.
Yes.
So, that's the reason for that. There's good reason.
Like that
for it.
Shaw's grocery store and all those facilities, they're on a giant septic.
Now they
Still.
are, but I assume they're
They're,
going to
they're
connect at
going
some
to,
point.
they're going to connect.
Right.
What, at some point, probably 2 years from now.
I'm not sure when,
It's gonna be a while,
yeah.
yeah. But that's a
Um,
septic.
It is.
It's one of the reasons why they can't rent out the other space besides, Shaw's the anchor. And they committed to putting a place there before they even knew what they were doing. Because it was Groton and they needed to be in the area, so they put in a space. And it was after the fact that they discovered that, oh, what, no, there's no sewer here? There will be soon enough.
It's taking a while, but that's a great store. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Robert also asked me to come to, you should have received, or I know Patrick has
Yeah.
received this spreadsheet.
Yeah, I forwarded it to the guy.
Okay, so this is, I put it in Excel, so you can see some of the past years, and then as people submit their budgets, we'll be filling in this column.
Right.
But he basically asked me to encourage you, because one year, the finance committee met with every single department,
We don't need to do that.
and it's a short amount of time that you do it. It's just very stressful, I think. And burnout is what I would say. You get burnt out
It's
fast.
unnecessary.
I don't think it's necessary. You had a lot of small, if you look at this, like you probably want to talk to the selectmen budget. You'll want to talk to Robert. He'll want to talk to you anyway.
Yep.
You may or may not want to talk to me or the, payroll and benefits guy, but you want to focus on the bigger ones, specifically police, fire, and DPW.
Yep.
And then maybe a few others. But a lot of these departments are just basically a couple of people and some pens and pencils, so it's really not. And we identify any significant swings anyway.
Right.
But I'm not telling you what
So
to do by
that's
any means,
what-
but I think you might find it a lot less stressful if you don't.
Well, and it reduces the number of meetings we need to
Yeah.
have and the durations of the meetings.
Right.
And for the department heads, it's an additional have to justify their existence. And personally, I mean, if you want to have them, it's up to the committee, we can do it. I think fire, I think DPW, I think police, I think Parks and Rec is worthwhile.
Yeah, maybe in the library. I mean, you
Library.
can scan through them and see.
Yeah, facilities sometimes is very interesting, but a lot of it is just kind of boilerplate.
Yeah, facilities.
I mean, IT is interesting, because IT is constantly going through changes.
Right.
So it's worth having Cindy come in for a little bit and talk to her.
I was talking about like maybe, and you may want to talk to the library.
Yeah.
Because there's some turnover in the director
Yes,
now
yeah.
and things are progressing. But there's also there's some very small departments that,
Yeah.
or there's some, like say the veterans agent and veterans benefits. So there's two different lines. The veterans benefits are what they are. It's kind of relates to the economy most of the time. So you'd see a swing if when the economy just was bad. We had a swing. We had a lot of people come in who were eligible for benefits and found themselves out of work. So obviously they went and got on benefits, at least temporarily. And once they get a job, they get off.
So really, when I looked at this, so then a swing from year to year is not necessarily an indicator of anything. I mean, it can
Not
happen.
on that line.
Well, but like, since I'm new to this.
Yeah, no, please, it's good.
If you had all new equipment in the fire department, okay, the next year's budget would not be a plus 25%. It might be a
No,
plus
no.
2%.
Right.
Right? And then the year after, and the equipment is still working the third year, and that might be, their budget may even go down by a negative 5%. If you compare year
I've yet to
year.
see that. We're a service organization, so meaning that most of the money that you see here is wages. Makes sense, because we're a service organization. So and we have a lot of unions. So
Yeah.
it's unlikely you're gonna see too many budget lines that go down. I mean, I have seen some.
It happens.
Sometimes like the county assessment goes down,
Okay.
or, some of the other things that are, sometimes if we negotiate and work with, sometimes we find ourselves seeing, health insurance go down, or at least go down from not increase as much as we expected to. And we
Last
have-
year it went down quite a bit, but that was a renegotiation and
Yeah,
it was done very
but
well.
we have 3 unions in the police department, firefighters are in a union, DPW's in a union, clerical union. So you're not, and we're most of, like I said, like most of the money is really wages. You're unlikely to see decreases, except for those line items that don't have employees. But even then, most of that is related to employee benefits, so.
And just to clear up too,
Please.
all the money that we get, all the money that the town gets, or through taxes or grants or loan,
Receipts.
that's our money. We don't have to give it up at the end of, or give it back or anything like that. If we don't use it. it
Grants
goes-
are different. Grants are different. So grants, you likely will have to give back something, but that's not what this budget is. This is just the general fund budget. So it's just, the revenues are only general fund monies. So they're taxes, the bulk of it, they're local receipts such as motor vehicle excise, such as, permits and fees, building
Parking
permits.
tickets,
Yeah,
stuff.
so,
But most of my dealings have always been with federal monies, which can come and go. If you don't spend it, you'll lose it.
yeah.
And when you budget every year, you budget, you can increase, but sometimes they don't want you to increase. And so,
We don't rely a lot on state or federal money, thank God.
all right, okay.
We,
It's not a use
we
it or-
do.
It's not
I mean,
use it or lose it.
It's not use or lose.
No.
If we don't use it, we keep it.
Some has to be returned to the state.
but not the general fund money.
Not general fund. No, general fund is,
Only grants, which is outside of this.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
if FY 2019, if I remember correctly, looking at your forecasts, we're gonna be like $1 million under the spend forecast. I believe, something like that. Somewhere in that area.
I'll trust you.
I don't know, so if at the end of FY 2018,
18, you're talking
18,
about.
yes.
Because I went in 019.
no, we don't know yet, we're not there.
Right.
But
18.
in 2018, we came in at a fairly significant amount of money under
Yeah.
forecast. That money then is retained by the town. It doesn't have to be given to someone, because it's
No.
it's
Okay,
receipts that we
got
collect.
it.
If there are favorable variances, they are retained by the town. It's
Okay.
all still ours. Right. So, and that's what comprises free cash, basically.
Yep.
Favorable variances.
And
Budget.
every year, the Department of Revenue, I guess they do what's called approve the free cash.
Yeah, they do.
So you
Based
have
on
to
balance
submit
sheet.
to them, or Lisa does, submit to them.
Balance sheet,
documentation, all this kind of
all
stuff that
kinds of
says,
reports.
okay, this is how much free cash we anticipate. And they go through their process, which is laborious and long time, and they come back and say, okay, that free cash is good. And they report it. And I get copies of the free cash reports, and I forward them to you guys. You may have seen, I don't know if you've seen one of the ones, I know Terry has, ones that I received from the DOR. And when I receive it, I send it to you so you can see what the free cash allocations are for every town in the Commonwealth.
Okay.
But yeah, that's retained. We don't have to give it back to somebody unless it's a grant.
Right, and that's
Okay.
outside of
Okay.
what you guys
It
have been
doesn't-
working
yeah.
on.
Okay.
And it, yeah, so we have fund balance, just like retained earnings in the private sector. And I came from the private sector, so I'm assuming that people know what that is, because, fund balance, free cash, none of that makes much sense, I think. But
In the commercial world, free cash? Okay.
there are reason, so we have this fund balance that we close in this dollar amount. But sometimes, based on votes, some of it's already has to get set aside because it's already been voted for use. Or some of it has to get set aside because we know we have payables, encumbrance, amounts that we've encumbered that it really should have been expended this year, but for whatever reason they weren't. So we have to reserve that against whatever undesignated fund balances. So then that's what the free cash is basically the undesignated amount, the uncommitted amounts of our retained earnings, if you will. And then that's what they start with to calculate free cash. But it's
They certify your free cash. Every
They do.
community's free cash gets certified every year by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue.
Okay.
and then we basically vote it.
Yeah.
We have it in our revenue projections. That doesn't mean we spend it every year. What we try to do is we've been, in the last few years at least, we've been financially sound enough to put a significant amount, $300,000 into OPEB, our OPEB liability, our OPEB trust fund. This year, we're putting $600,000 into the capital stabilization and another almost $100,000 into stabilization. We had built up stabilization quite a bit, so we wanted capital stabilization to start building up too, so that because we know that they're significant and there'll always be significant infrastructure projects around here. The stuff that's under the ground is pretty costly, the school buildings all the buildings are costly, so.
Okay, all right.
So does that address the concerns you had, the questions?
Yes, sir.
So back to the topic, and that is, we have the prerogative as the Finance Committee of meeting with the department heads for each one of the town departments. And what I'm going to propose is that each of us take a look at the budget, not the capital, but the budget you were just looking at. That's the operating budget. This is capital expenditure, totally different. animal.
This is the budget.
Right, that's the operating expenditure, operating budget.
Okay.
And if there's a particular department that you have an interest in, you want to talk to them, let me know and we'll schedule them to come in. If not, then that's fine. They don't have to.
No, you don't have to.
We don't have to. It's up to us and we can decide as we do. I don't think as a matter of, like you said, as a matter of practice, I don't think having them parade in front of us to justify running a department that they seem to do a very good job of running anyway, why?
Right.
I agree with you 100%.
I mean, you may want to talk to the big ones.
Oh yeah, we'll talk to
Yes.
fire, we'll talk to police, we'll talk to Mark, DPW,
Right.
parks more than likely, facilities, because there's a
Yep.
lot of things going on in the facilities. Some of the other ones, like, why?
Right.
They're hidden infrastructure components in the vast majority of their costs, as Lisa said, are the salaries of the people that work there.
That's
So, parks, they spend money on stuff.
They do.
Facilities spends money on stuff, especially this coming year. There's
Absolutely.
going to be a significant amount, and you'll see in the capital budget there's quite a bit of money that facilities is doing. Like one of the things they're doing this year that was approved part of last year and is being requested again this year is access to this building. It is typically arcane keys and old ways of going around. They want to put in electronic card systems and cameras so they can see people and modernize it. And
It's
that's
more for
not cheap.
security reasons. We've had meeting after meeting, department head meeting after department head meeting about cybersecurity, but not
Yeah.
about a physical security of the
Physical
building.
security.
And this building, it's never been addressed. And
And it is.
there are windows left open sometimes, there's
Yep.
been doors left open, and it's not a good thing. Not in this day and age anyway, I don't believe. And, there's departments that deal with cash, there's no cameras. Every night on the news you hear about somebody getting robbed, it's only a matter of time.
Yep. And we have
Sad
a new
to say.
facilities manager that's very conscientious, and he's gone through it and he's identified some of these frailties and recommended expenditures to correct it. I think it would be appropriate to talk with him and see where he's at and what his plans are. I think it's a good thing. But other than that, I don't think we have any real issues.
No.
I don't. Then I'll leave it up to the committee to decide, if there's a particular interest, we can have them come and talk to us. And we've got months to do this. We don't have to do this next week. It's like
Right.
through the end of February, probably, right?
Yeah, I would say through the
Yeah.
end of February.
So we've got quite a bit of time to request, and I can just, if you have an interest, I can just request that Robert have the department head of whatever, the chief fire department or the Chief Warren or Murray from the police department come and talk. Now, Murray's not asking for any capital money, which shocked me.
Yeah, the police department doesn't typically ask that much for capital. They have a cruiser built into their budget because every year they were asking for a cruiser and we're like, we might as well just put it in your budget. 'Cause, so we built it into there. Once we were more financially, solid,
Yeah,
we could do things like that. Not in the beginning. We had to borrow everything.
And they got that space that last year they wanted to do to expand. They finished that. That's all done.
The evidence room?
Yeah.
It's in the process.
Okay, good.
He's, apparently the vendor whoever took the measurements didn't take them right. The vendor they were using, so they had to reorder and they're on back order too to boot. So yeah, there's like an 8-week delay
And the roof.
in getting the 2 files, some kind of file storage that they needed.
And the roof air handling systems are in process, I understand.
I think Chuck's been working on
Yeah,
those
he has.
himself. He did.
I know, we talked about that last
Right.
year, and
He's
he and
he's
Chris
pretty
actually-
handy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Good. So that means go ahead. Go ahead.
So we're in FY19 right now.
We are in
Correct.
FY19 right
And
now.
so this actual means that's what we've spent to
To date.
date?
To date, yeah, but that would have been the date of when I did it, so November, because Robert wanted me to do them. So it's not even, it's like 4.5 months, not even full 5 months. So you probably want to look at some of the previous spending,
It is, the
I
cycle.
like balance it out.
The cycles follow each other, though. I mean, if you were to plot it out cyclically, they're very consistent. You don't see too many.
But you may look and see a line item looks to you like it's almost spent or something, but for instance, service maintenance agreements, you pay for those at the beginning of the year, right? So that
pay for
makes
the
it
year
look like
instead
it's
of
out of
every
whack, but it's fine because
Yeah.
they're service maintenance agreements. And like for under my department, the audit, well, I just recently closed the books for last year, so they'll be coming in at some point. They usually don't come in until the winter anyway. So that's why hardly anything of that line has been spent. But it will be, because we're under contract, so it will be.
So, yeah, you're
wanna
not going to
look
see
at
a
a full
regular
year's.
spend every month on a lot of things unless it's personnel. This personnel is
Personnel.
going to be, but if it's purchased items or contracts like a service contract, you pay the year up front and you save money on that instead of paying every month,
Earned value?
Say again?
Earned value?
What do you mean by that?
Okay, all right. That's okay. Because see, when you tell me, when you started talking in months and dollar figures, and some things are not steady,
Yep.
okay? You can have, if I'm halfway through my schedule, but I'm 90% through my finances, that might be a problem. It might be a problem.
And this is what I'm telling you about tax title. She will likely need a reserve fund transfer for that.
Right, and so all I'm saying is a lot of these numbers are relative to not something, not, and that's okay if something is 50% schedule and 90% funding. That's okay, because you might say, I needed all that money because I paid for services ahead of time.
Right.
Right, and I'm only gonna, it's the last 10% of that funding is just gonna go to the end of the year, and it's gonna be 100%. It's just to me, it's a measure then of what's happening, and that may elude a question from somebody else, like, well, you're gonna make it to the end of the year with what you have left, and they're going, yeah, because I don't need it for anything else. Okay.
The departments
Yeah,
have a good
that's-
handle on that.
That, you raise a good point. The fact that it's annually budgeted to a number instead of allocated on a monthly basis, there is no monthly forecast of expenditure. There's an annual budget of X, and off you go. And hopefully when you get to the end, you're at a zero and everything's happy. But it doesn't, I understand your question 100%. If you know as the budgeter that 50% of the way through the year, I'm going to have a spike, I'm going to spend 90% of my budget, things go along, look nice, all of a sudden it goes boom! How do we know that it's not gonna be, yeah,
In my other job, okay, I'm given federal money for travel, for my guys to travel, right? And it's for the year. This is all you get for the year. We try to guess what their travel schedule is gonna be for the entire year, but we don't actually know. And so I have to plot, actuals and anticipated, but then I also have to look at going, okay, what is my schedule? I'm 50% through the year, but I've spent 75% of my travel budget.
Right.
Then I have to tell somebody when I anticipate to be at another number, 85%,
Right.
so that when I get to 85%, somebody else might panic and go, "You still have a half a year to go. We better find you some more money." What happened? Well, this is what all the travel we did. This is the meetings we had to go to. This is what we had to do.
This is what the reserve fund is for.
And so they'll find the money somewhere else to be able to
Right.
give me to say, okay, for you to be able to complete your contract or your requirements, we'll give you some more money.
The department, this is exactly what the reserve fund transfer is.
exactly what the reserve fund is
So
for.
if you had unanticipated travel costs, obviously.
Yep.
You didn't budget for. So the department, whoever's requesting it, has to justify that was either unforeseen or extraordinary, or both.
Yeah.
So, and that's the only basis you can use to give a reserve fund transfer.
Are you-
So you can't just arbitrarily increase people's hours in knowing that you went in with a budget set on these hours and then come for a reserve fund transfer.
Exactly.
You
might just
cannot
think-
do
yeah,
that.
Exactly, right.
So-
Okay, all right.
Right.
So what happened, the process is, when a reserve fund transfer is required, Lisa comes to us and there's a form for it, and we discuss it, we vote on it, and I approve it or we disapprove it. We never have disapproved it, but we could.
You could.
And then once it's signed like that, then she's approved to use those funds. So, but yeah, that was a great example about the travel. It's like, wait a minute. So, yeah.
Sometimes it can't be helped.
Yeah.
And when we do the budget, we're starting to work on fiscal 20's budget now. I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, we don't know those things. We're using our best judgment based on past experience or what we know is going to happen that year, but there are things that happen all the time that you don't know.
Do you ever run into, even though you have the reserve, do you ever run into where you take money from somebody else?
Can't do that, we're not a city. A mayor, or city councilors can do that. We're a town, so we'd have to go to town meeting to get a
The Board of
supplemental, they
Selectmen
call it
do not have the authority to
supplemental.
do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
they
has to
do
be
not.
the-
Okay, good.
Yeah.
There's a mechanism,
Yep.
but it's not within the governance as one would think. It has to go through the people.
It's not.
I should qualify that a little bit. There are special DOR regulations for year ends
Yeah, you're.
that if you ran out of reserve fund, and it's a very tight time frame that you have. It's like a couple of weeks after year end. But it takes both the vote of the Finance Committee as well as the Board of Selectmen to move money from one appropriation to another.
Okay.
Obviously it can't be money that's gonna be used, it's gonna be
Right.
used. So they typically, they'll take non-department, they'll take an appropriation like an insurance line. Well, we know we paid our insurance all this year, but there's excess money in there. They'll take like that money. They'll stay away from the money with people in it, the
Yeah.
department, because you never know. Like the fire department, for instance, he could have a huge fire and
You never know.
there goes his,
All the
wages,
Yeah,
overtime.
it just goes crazy. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you just used the term appropriation. In the two left-hand columns, the first column has a 4-digit number, and the second column has a 5-digit number.
The first, this worksheet comes from our financial system, which is Munis. And so the first number is what we call an org, and the second number is an object. So the org identifies the department. And then you see a subtotal. You should see the subtotal down below, just for instance, for Board of Selectmen,
Yep,
you see a subtotal for FY19 budget of 246,308.
yep.
Okay, so that's the Board of Selectmen's budget. So basically, the town manager, basically, and Carly, and, you know, whatever expenses they have. The second one is benefits and payroll manager. That's Kevin Johnston, who, you know, does our payroll for us, and reporting, and whatever he has to do, and so forth. So, and the object just describes what type of expense it is. So typically 5.1 accounts are wages or wage related, and 5.2 is service, 5.3 is service related, 5.4 and 5.5 are like supply related or things. 5.7 is other charges. Mostly it's travel, dues and subscriptions, memberships, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then if you see 5.8, that's usually capital, some kind of capital.
Okay. Excellent. I'm good.
Nice
Lisa,
class.
I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to explain
good?
these things. Mark, are you happy with that?
I'm good.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Terry?
I'm very, we can go back and review this on the film.
So,
I missed that part.
so you guys, what we've covered is, you guys are gonna look at the capital stuff,
Yep.
and you're gonna send me an email or whatever with any questions you have. And then we'll address those. You have the budgets. If you have an interest in seeing, talking to a department head, let me know. Either of you, both of you. And I'll ask Greg the same thing. By the way, Greg's occupied this evening. His division from Hanscom is having their Christmas party in Boston tonight, so, you know, certain things are important and certain things aren't, and I guess where they aren't.
Isn't he moving soon?
Huh?
Is he still moving? Or has that been-
Well, he's, it's pending.
Ah.
He was offered something at Kirkland Air Force Base,
Mhm.
and one of the guys that he was working with, a colonel in the Air Force, got transferred down there, and the colonel said, I want you to come down with me and be my dollars and cents guy for the, and so Greg said, sure, I'd be happy to do that, and they've submitted the documentation, but it hasn't been approved. So he's still Hanscom doing what he's doing, and if and when it gets approved, then he won't. So right now, nothing has changed. You know
It's a
exactly what I'm
service.
talking about.
I know what you're talking about. That happened to me.
Yeah?
Yep, I was living in Kansas, and I had a colonel that I worked for went to Cocoa Beach. He was working on a space shuttle, and he requested me, and I got orders to go to Cocoa Beach to work on the space shuttle with him. And then the chief master sergeant on the Air Force Base got him canceled.
They can do
I
that.
can't afford for you to go anywhere. What?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Who wouldn't rather be in Cocoa Beach?
Yeah. Versus Kansas?
No kidding, I have a sister in
Working
Kansas.
on
Thank you,
And
Lisa.
niece and nephew in Kansas.
working on a space shuttle.
Thanks a
so-
lot. Thank you.
Have a good
Yeah.
night.
Two.
Okay, so we've covered everything on the, there was one thing we were gonna talk about the minutes, but Greg is not here, and he's our clerk, so we don't have a copy of the minutes to discuss. The clerk's job, just so that you're aware, Mark, is to take the minutes, and then at the subsequent meeting, to present the minutes, have them printed out and presented, and the attendees at the meeting for those minutes review them. If they agree, they sign them. Then I sign them, and they go to the assistant town manager and go into town record. We don't have any documented minutes, so we don't have any minutes, and that's okay. They're not. It's not a drop dead thing. You got to have it next time, but it is a requirement that minutes be done. We didn't take minutes today, and that's my fault. And as the chairman, I'm not supposed to keep the minutes, so I should have asked one of you guys to do it, but I didn't. So I will do the minutes for today's meeting after the fact, and when we meet again, I'll submit them to you guys for approval.
Okay.
Okay? The last thing on the agenda for today is a discussion of a vice chair. And the role of the vice chair is basically to be the chairman's backup. If I'm around and I'm doing what I'm doing, the vice chair doesn't have anything to do. But if I'm unavailable or whatever, then the vice chair steps in, chairs the meeting, does the agenda, so on and so forth. The vice chair also attends the capital planning meetings, typically. Instead of the chairman, it's the vice chairman that attends and then presents this stuff to the committee. But I'm doing it this year. I did it last year when I was vice chair, but I'm doing it this year because we don't have a vice chair. And if you wanted to be vice chair and you were nominated to be such, you wouldn't have to suddenly attend these meetings. I'll continue to do that for this year. But for next year, you would be nominated to do it. And if you couldn't, then I would do it. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? So basically, the vice chair is a backup. You don't have. I have my own set of keys and all sort of stuff to get in another building. You don't have to have any of that stuff. Okay. None of that responsibility. You are the backup. If that's something you're interested in, willing to do. If not, that's perfectly okay. We don't have to have a vice chair for the committee. And we also don't have to decide today. So I will open the floor to any discussion that the members have about vice chair, any nominations. If not, then we can move to, I will accept a motion to adjourn the meeting if we want to do the vice chair another time. So I turn it over to you guys.
Mark, if you're interested in doing that, yes. Okay. I'll nominate Mark to take a position of vice chair for the Ayer Financial Committee.
And I would second that motion since you can't second it, since you're the one that was nominated. So, Mark, congratulations. I'll let the town manager know and the moderator, Tom, that you've been nominated and voted as the vice chair of the Finance Committee. And so it will be so annotated on the website.
Okay.
And then as we'll work more closely together as I put agendas and stuff together. I'll be in touch with you, say if there's anything you want to put on it, any issues that I've forgotten, that kind of stuff.
So Pat, for the capital
I
budget.
think Mark
sorry.
has a question. Yes.
No. I'll tag along with you this year anyway.
Okay.
Just
Well-
because.
Actually, to continue with that, I don't mean to cut you off, but there is a meeting on December 12th, which is next Wednesday, of the, you're not going to be in town. That's why I can't go either. I'm out of town. So never mind. So as the capital planning committee schedules meetings with department heads, because we're going to meet with every one of them. Everyone that has a submission here, they're going to be coming before the capital planning committee, and we're going to discuss what they want and why and so on and so forth. So as that agenda gets defined, I'll let you know, and you're invited to attend with me.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Is that a chair and vice chair thing only, as far as the FinCom goes? Or?
No, if you are interested in attending, I'll invite you, and you're more than welcome to attend the capital planning meeting. You won't be in a position to vote as a member of the committee, but you're certainly welcome to attend, participate in the conversations. Absolutely, you're more than welcome to do that if you're interested.
Well, I would be interested in going just to get the experience and
Okay.
listening and understanding of how that whole thing
Great.
works.
Great. It's Chris Hillman, who's one of the Board of Selectmen members, is typically the chairman of the Capital Planning Committee, and the only reason is he likes to do that. The other two Board of Selectmen members don't really like to do that. So he tends to chair it. Robert Pompriand, who is the town manager, attends. Lisa attends. And then there are 4 members of the community and 1 member of the FinCom that is actually on the voting committee. But you're certainly welcome to participate, join in, engage in the conversations, what have you. The only difference would be that only 1 member of FinCom can vote. So we can decide if it's you or me, who cares, right? It doesn't make any difference. But you're more than welcome to attend. That's one of the...
And we're supposed to have a consensus, right? So even
A
though
majority.
in our recommendation, so
Yes,
I
we want-
might disagree with this, and you guys might agree with this, and so basically is then as a committee we agree with it, since it's you know,
Well, we'll have a vote, because every one of the items that's in the budget, we have the prerogative to vote on every line item in the
Right.
budget. And we can discuss every line item in the budget. When you get back, we'll have meetings to talk about every one of those line items.
every one of these.
Every one of those in a committee, right? And if we agree, fine. If we don't agree, then we'll request that particular department head to come and discuss it to satisfy the committee member or members that have a disagreement with it. At the end of the day, we will have a vote on each one of the line items of the budget, whether we agree or not, and that is majority rule. So if there's three of us, we have a quorum. If two of us say yes, one says no, that goes into the minutes, that the discussion was had, the motion was placed, the motion passed by a rule of 2-1.
Yeah,
So it's Roger's rule of order.
Right,
So
right.
very simple.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Is that satisfied?
Yeah, yeah. So now, so we're gonna get another one of these sheets.
Yep,
And it's gonna have 2020 on here.
yep,
And that's what we're gonna check
Yep.
off on.
you betcha.
This is this budget, this is the capital budget, which is something completely
Totally different.
different.
Some of the capital budget will come out of operating expense. Some of the capital budget will be debt exclusions, and some of it will be free cash expenditures. So like Lisa was saying, there's a capital set aside,
Mm-hmm.
the $600,000. So there's 600 grand in capital expenditures that the town has on a bank account today. As the capital planning committee discuss capital requests, we may decide to borrow for that. Like the fire chief, he wants $650,000 to buy a new fire engine, okay? We haven't agreed to do that. But if we do, then we have to decide, okay, how do we finance it? Do we borrow for it? Or do we just pay for it out of capital and depreciate it? And that's part of the committee. That's what the committee does. It makes those decisions. Okay, so it's very informative and very interesting to see how the town thinks about various things and to participate. You know, personally, I think it's a privilege to be able to participate in the running of the town.
Oh, absolutely. I think so too.
It really is.
It is interesting.
It is, isn't it? So well, let's do this. I would entertain a motion to adjourn, because I don't think we want this on tape.
Okay.
I move that we adjourn the meeting for the evening.
I second.
Okay, I call a close to the December 6th Finance Committee meeting for the town of Ayer.